Hi everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Sew Along with Jan. I have done this little project, Any Day Spent Sewing is a Good Day, for the AQS Quilt Show in Des Moines, Iowa, and I am going to share it with everyone on YouTube. So this is the video. Please, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, Sew Along with Jan, please do. Just hit the subscribe button. And I also have a Facebook page called Sew Along with Jan that you can come join us every week for classes. And it's Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. So please come join us on Facebook as well. That's where the live videos are. And then I always post all of my videos from Facebook on my YouTube channel, Sew Along with Jan, directly after the class. So those of you who are watching on YouTube can also watch then, but it'll be about an hour later or so. All right, so let's get into this little project. So this is just a fun little project I wanted to do as a make and take for the AQS Quilt Show. So I decided to just make a really cute little table tent. It's a little table tent. We're going to do a little project, a fun little project with the Scan and Cut and the Rotary Auto Blade. I love making these little felt flowers, and the Scan and Cut does a wonderful job cutting them. And I've given you some designs. So the designs for the three little flowers are in the description below this video. So if you're watching this video, there's a little description box. If you click like more or see more, right under the video, there's going to be a little description box there, and there'll be a link so that you can get all of the designs that you need to make this project, and also a link to a couple more of my videos that talk more specifically about the Rotary Auto Blade for the Scan and Cut. There's also lots of other Scan and Cut videos on my YouTube channel, so go watch those as well if you're getting a new machine and wanting to know more information about cutting fabric, cutting vinyls, making projects. I do a lot of Scan and Cut videos, so they're really fun. All right, so let's talk about this little project. So to make this little project, you're going to need 3 or 4 pieces of felt. It's actually 4. So there's 2 rolled flowers and then the little loopy flower. And each one of these pieces of felt should be about 5 inches square. Could be a little bit less. I'm actually using a couple of scraps today. So a couple of mine are just a little smaller. And then the little leaf is made out of scrap of felt that's about 2.5 inches square. So that's really all you need for that. I'm going to also give you this printable that says Any Day Spent Sewing is a Good Day. It's going to be a PDF file that you can run through your printer, printed on cardstock. So I printed this on, just kind of my standard cardstock that I use for printing a lot. It's about a 65 or 80 pound cardstock, whichever works well in your printer. So I printed out all of these, and then you cut them in half twice, because it's going to be 4 of them on a sheet. So then you'll be able, if you need to make several gifts, then you'll be able to do several at a time. Okay, so that's in in the description below the video. You'll get the design for the 3 flowers and the leaf. The leaf is actually also in the machine. So I just made it a special size, so I just put it in with the design. And then the printable. And then this video, of course, will also show you how to make the little table tent. So you can make this little table tent out of cardstock as well. And it's very simple so that you can have a nice little thing to set on your shelf. Okay. So let's just go ahead. That's the kind of the little materials you need. You need 3 pieces of felt that are about 5 by 5 square, one that's 2.5 by 2.5, and print the little printable there. And that is all in the link. It's a Dropbox link, so you'll be able to download those items from Dropbox and the design to make this project. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to talk just a little bit about getting our machine set up. I am going to be using the Rotary Auto Blade. I have 2 other videos that I'll also link in the description below that talks about all the specifics about getting your Rotary Auto Blade set up. For sake of time with this project, I will not go through all of those things, but I will show you one thing when we get ready to cut it, so you can see a difference in the cutting. There are a couple of settings you need to make in the machine, and I have done 2 other videos about how to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and put our Rotary Auto Blade in the machine, just like any other blade. And you can see it has like a little rotary cutter on the end of it. It's kind of a cool blade. So this works very well for felt. I cut a little felt before I got the Rotary Auto Blade. It came out about 2 years ago. And the regular blade would cut the felt, but it was very difficult because it kind of wanted to scooch it around the mat. You know, the blade was pushing through the felt, and felt's a little bit dense, so it didn't work very well. So this works very well, and it just rolls right over. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and let's bring up our design on the screen here. Let me get my little stylus here. And I've saved my design in my machine. So I'm just going to hit retrieve data, my machine. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom. I have a bunch of designs saved in here. So this is my little design. So there's the 3 flowers, and I made it all in one mat, so it makes it easy for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and choose that. And I'm going to hit OK. All right, so we're ready with our design. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my fabrics on my mat. So you can see I kind of put them on the screen so that they're all in like each 6-inch quadrant here. So that's how I'm going to put my fabric on. And then we'll scan to make sure that we get them in the right place. So give me a second here. I'm going to put the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. I've got my mat laying here. Now I am using I have found that the fabric mats are too tacky for this acrylic felt. I'm just using standard acrylic felt. I got this probably at Walmart or Joann's. If you would use maybe a higher quality felt like a wool or wool blend felt, you might be able to use the fabric mat. But what I've found that works well for the acrylic felt is a pretty sticky standard mat. So I just got a standard mat here. I have restuck this mat with some Zig 2-way glue pen because my mat is getting some age on it now, and this is the pen. Turn it right side up for you. I have also done some videos about cleaning my mats and how I restick them, so I'll also link that in the description below the video so you can see those. But I have had some mats for a very, very long time, so they do last a long time if you keep them clean and you can restick them. Now this is, again, I marked this felt. So what I do with I usually have one mat that I always just use for felt. It does get pretty dirty. I do clean them with baby wipes after I cut. So I'll cut and then I'll clean with a baby wipe to keep the mat clean after each cut. And that really helps. And then after they get to be not so sticky, I clean again and then I restick them with my Zig. So that seems to work real well, but that's what I use for my acrylic felt. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put these on, and I know that this piece here is kind of short. See, I've got a scrap, so I'm going to put that over on this side in the top corner because I know this particular flower is a little smaller, so I'm going to set that there. I think I want my purple one over here for the kind of rose looking flower. And then I'm going to take my little brayer. Let me pull the camera back just a little further. Sorry, I don't have a lot of room on this table, so it makes it a little difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and use my brayer. And like I said, this mat seems to work pretty well. I do use the brayer, and it needs to be relatively sticky. It doesn't need to be, I mean, if they're new, they're almost too sticky. So I kind of use them a little bit before I put felt on them. And this one is an older mat now, so I'm going to put my felt on it and keep this one for felt. Okay, so there's my first 2 pieces. And then I'm going to turn this over. Let me turn it over so you can see what I'm doing. This is going to be one of the bottom pieces, and I'm going to lay this one this way. This is going to be that loopy flower. And again, I'm going to use my brayer. This is one of my favorite tools to put them on the mat. And then I'm going to lay my little piece over here for the leaf. So I just have my mat turned upside down right now. All right, so we're just going to lay those in those 4 quadrants. So here's, if I hold this up, hopefully you can see all 4 of them, okay? And like I said, I'm using some scraps, so this one's very, very close, but I know it will fit. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and load my mat. I'm going to push this up against the rollers. I'm going to put my hand in the middle and spread my hand out, and then I'm going to be pressing the mat button up here. right here and guide it in. I always lay my hand over the center because then I know that it is going to go in flat. Okay, so there is our loaded mat. So next we're going to, I brought it up, and on this screen you can see that there's a little scanning button. So I'm going to scan so that I know exactly where these fabrics are. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the scan button, and I'm going to hit start. And we're just going to scan this so that we know we have our designs in the correct place. All right. Takes a minute to scan. And the brayer really works well for keeping things straight. Well stuck, I should say, to the mat. So, okay, so we're going to move these over so you can see that everything's a little bit off. So we're just going to kind of check where everything is. A couple of my pieces of felt are just barely big enough, but they're big enough. So I'm going to move this one over just a little bit. Should be okay. And then here's my little leaf. Okay, so we're just going to move this in so that it's inside my felt where I want it. And this one is going to be really close. So if you can't get it to move with just using your finger or your stylus, if you hit edit, there's a little move button right here. And I'm just going to move this one over just a hair because I can't move it without getting it too far over. So I think that looks better. I just hit the button and it goes over in a very small increment. So I think that worked good. Okay. So I think we're good there. And I'm going to click OK one more time. So now we're on the screen where we're going to cut. So I'm going to hit please select and cut. Now the machine knows the rotary auto blade is in there because that there's like little things on the back of the blade so that they know what's in there. So it says that it's going to take 4 minutes. So this is one of the settings that I do occasionally play with depending on what I'm cutting. So I have 3 flowers that are fairly simple and the leaf shape is fairly simple. Normally when I cut with the rotary auto blade, I use a setting called fine. And there's 2 settings. So to find those, they're in here. This is the settings page. If I hit the little wrench, and it's on the second page, and this is where I sometimes do change this. So it says cut mode, rotary blade. Right now I'm on normal. Often I will use, if I'm cutting very detailed flowers, I'll use fine. So let me show you what it does though when you choose fine. If I click OK, and we go back to that screen where we were, it now says that the cutting time is 18 minutes. So if you are doing a very detailed flower, it really needs to be done on fine. In these cases, sometimes I'll check the difference. So if I go back to normal, let's go back to the second page and put this back on normal. Now it says 4 minutes. So what I did with these flowers and this leaf is I test cut it to see if it cut fine on the normal setting, so that obviously it takes a lot less time to cut than it does if you do it on fine. Some flowers just are too detailed and have too many little like scallops or little bumps along the edge that I have to do them on fine. So it does take quite a while to cut flowers out, just so you are aware. In my other video about the rotary blade, there are a couple of other settings that you also need to do on your machine, but I would refer you to those videos to get your rotary blade set up. And it's also in the instructions for the rotary blade before you start this project. Okay, so I'm happy with the normal. I know it's going to cut okay because I have tested it. And I'm going to hit start. And we're just going to let it cut. I'll probably pause the camera for just a moment while this is cutting because it takes about 4 minutes. And get it started here so you can see what it's going to do. It's going to adjust the blade. And just to warn you, the rotary blade does make some kind of funny motions sometimes. It'll start cutting and then it'll start shooting the mat in and out. So just don't be concerned that something's going on with that. It is I suppose it's something to do with the blade adjustment as it's adjusting. So I'm going to pause the video for just a moment while this is finishing cutting, and we'll come back and see how we did. Okay, so we've just finished cutting and all of them are done. I'm going to go ahead and click OK on my screen here. And let's see how we did. So this is the flower that's the most detailed. So this one here is going to be the rose style flower. So I'm just going to go ahead. Ooh, that looks like it cut very nicely. Look at that. That looks very nice. All right, so I'm going to get that off. And then when you go to take this off, again, it's fairly sticky. So just carefully pull up and try not to stretch it out of shape. And this one's coming up pretty well. This was a little heavier felt, so it's not too bad. Now notice that it is leaving a residue. So after I'm all done cutting, I will go ahead and I'll take my baby wipes. And when you buy baby wipes, just buy the cheap ones that don't have any scent or any, I just buy like whatever I can get at the dollar store. No scent. You don't want aloe or any of that kind of stuff in it. So then I just wipe this off, get it real wet. Sometimes I have to let it set for a minute and then wipe it again. And this will all come off and you can keep your mats really clean. Okay, so then this is the round flower. And I think I just got it on my felt, so it looks pretty good. Yep. So here's the round one. And I'm just going to do the same thing with this. Just carefully pull up so that it doesn't stretch. Okay, there's that. And give me just a moment. I'm going to eject my mat. So of course we're going to use that same button up here, right here, to eject my mat. I'm going to turn this over so you can see what I'm doing over here. Turn it this way so you can see what I'm doing here. And then this is going to be that loopy flower. So this one's a little weird the way it is because it cuts just a bunch of lines. So you have to be a little careful pulling this one up. Okay, and sometimes you'll get one of these little spots, like there's a little spot right there that didn't cut. So I'm just always got a pair of scissors close so that I can just clip that little spot right there. It's just fine. Okay, and then this one I want to be careful because there's a bunch of little slats in there. Just cut a bunch of little lines. So I just want to make sure that I don't pull too hard. So I'm just going to gently pull it up. Try not to stretch it out of shape. And again, I'll clean my mat when I'm done here. And I usually clean almost after every cut because it just keeps the mat clean and then I can use it over and over again. Okay, so here's our little loopy flower. And then we've got our little leaf over here. Now the leaf, just so you know, like I said, it is in the machine and I just made it a special size, but the little stem is going to come off. It's just going to cut off and we don't need it anyway. We're not going to use that. So that's it. You can just pull it off and then here's our little leaf. Okay, so there's our little pieces for our little table tent design. So I'm going to go ahead and I will clean this mat up later with my baby wipes. And if you give me a moment, I'm going to pause the camera while I move some things over so that we can work on making our flowers. Okay, so I've got my mat over here. I have a cutting mat on my workspace. It's just nice because then if I get anything hot or anything, it protects my table. And here are a couple of the little printables that I printed out. So you can do 4 in, raise my camera just a little bit. You can do 4 on a sheet and then cut them in half both ways. Okay, so that's what I did here. This one's about a 65-pound paper, and then this one might be maybe 80 pounds. So I've got 2 here, and I'm just going to use the lighter weight one because we're going to be putting this on our little table tent, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's make our flowers. So I am going to do, these are rolled flowers, so these 2 are the rolled ones, and then this one's going to be rolled too, but we have to do another thing first with this one. Okay. So what I like to use to roll my flowers is I like to have something to hang on to. You can just do it with your fingers. I find it easier to have something to hang on. So I have a pair of those reverse tweezers. You squeeze them to open them instead of to close them. And these are straight ones, and these work really well. They're basically a quilling tool because I used to do a lot of paper quilling when I was a kid, and that slot, the little slotted tool is too small for the felt, but this little tweezer works great. So this is a straight reverse action tweezer. So I got this at I think it's a Spellbinders one, so it's a paper crafting one, but you can find all kinds of different tweezers that are made like this. So this works really great. Okay, so let's do the rose style flower first. So I'm going to go grab, and you're also going to need a hot glue gun. So I've got my little hot glue gun over here. And I like to use a hot glue gun when I do this. You can also use a tacky glue. It just takes longer for things to dry. And so these are really nice glue guns. These are little Gorilla Glue guns, and you can either make them high or low. The glue sticks are multi-temp, so you can either use it high or low, and I like to use it on high because it's not super duper hot anyway. So this works really great and has a nice trigger on it, so it's very easy to, and it stands up nicely on its own. Okay, so we've got my little glue gun, got my tweezers, and so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the center here. This little flap is going to be at the bottom of the flower, so we're going to start in the center of it, and I'm going to just put my tweezers on there, and I'm going to roll a couple of rolls so that my tweezer is completely covered, like that. And then I'm going to take my little glue gun, and I'm going to put just a little dab of glue along the bottom, right down in there, just to hold my center together. And then I'm going to take a few wraps. I'm trying to keep the bottom flat here. I'm going to take a couple wraps, and then I'll put another little bit of glue in there. Doesn't need to be very much, just enough to kind of help hold it together. And then we're going to take a few more wraps. Now try not to pull when you're wrapping. You don't want to stretch your little flower all out. Oops, I'm having a little trouble getting my glue to go. I had to put another glue stick in. There we go. Right, so I'm going to just take a couple more turns and make sure this is nice and flat. And then we're going to put another little bit more glue in there. Just helps to kind of hold everything together. When I do this with paper, I normally don't have to use glue, but with the felt, it's just a little bit. It scooches a little bit, so I usually put a little glue in here just to help me hold it. All right, so there's my flower, and then I'm getting towards the end here, so just a second, I got a couple strings. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to squeeze my tweezers and pull them open, make sure everything's nice and flat, and then I'm going to finish this just with my fingers. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue like right here and move it over to the side there, and then I'm going to turn this over, and I'm trying to make it as flat as possible in the back, and I'm going to lay some glue along that whole bottom edge, so it's just going to kind of hold everything together. I'm going to put the little flap over it, and then I'm going to push it down on the table and push it down in the center so that it goes down into the glue nicely, and it's all glued together now. And that works really well. The second half, I've got a cord in my way here. There we go. So there is our little rose style flower. Looks like I got a few little bits of hot glue. And like I said, if you want to use the wet glue, it works good to use a fairly tacky glue, so that they have different kinds of tacky glues. So, and that works pretty well. But I like the little hot glue gun. I've always done it with the hot glue gun. Okay. So there's our little flower. All right, so we got one done. And I'm just going to poke my finger down in the center just to make sure the center has a little dimension in there. Okay, and now let's do the round one. So the round one's going to be done basically the same. I'm going to put my tweezers in the center, so that little tab is going to be on the bottom. So we're going to start this way. And I'm going to take a couple of rounds so that my tweezers are completely covered, and then I'm going to put a little dab of glue in there and take a few more twists, and then put another little dab of glue. So I just kind of go, I'm not doing it in any particular place. I'm just kind of taking a few turns and then putting a little dab. It just helps to keep everything. Again, I'm trying to keep my bottom flat here, but the tweezers really help me. I tried to do these with my fingers, and I just really struggled to hang on to everything because I'm used to a quilling tool. So this is basically quilling, but with felt. Okay, so we're going to do that. Put a little bit more on and turn a couple more times. And then I'm getting towards the end, so I'm going to go ahead and take this off now of my tweezers. I'm just going to Squeeze them open so that they come open. And then, but I found that the reverse action ones work a lot easier than the regular ones because it's hard to hold them shut. So these stay shut, and then you squeeze them to open them up. So get some of those reverse action ones. They work great. Okay, so then I'm going to get this one set, and now I've got my bottom. It's nice and flat, and I'm just going to take my glue again and put glue on the whole bottom, and take the little flap and lay it right along the bottom of my flower. Holds it all together. Okay, let's lay it down here on the table, and I'm just going to press in the center so that it gets all glued together. And there's our little flower. It's kind of a rose too, but it's a straight rose. So this one had the little petals. So there's little petals along the edge. Okay, so we got those two done. So now let's do this one. Now this one's a little different. So there's two ways you can do this, and I'll show you. You can make this a loopy flower like this one. Like this. I like the loopy flowers. Or you can actually make it more of a blunt flower. So what I did here is I made this one blunt, and I trimmed the loops, and then I cut down the little fingers so they weren't quite so long. So that's the other way you could do it. So let me show you here how to get started. So our little loopy flower here, then we need to fold it in half the long way first. So I'm going to take my glue, get my glue stick in there. I'm going to take my glue. Sorry, I got a new glue stick. There we go. That's engaged, I think. And I'm going to go along the bottom. There should be about 1/4 of an inch or so along the bottom. And I'm going to fold this in half and have the raw edges meet on the bottom. And this is going to be the long way. So then our little loops are up here. Looks like I got some glue, and I'm just going to, I didn't use a whole lot, just enough to hold it together. Okay, so there's the start of our loopy flower. Now if you want to make the one like this, if I can get a hold of it, if you want to make the one like this, at this time you want to cut the loops with your scissors. Just take your scissors through here, okay, and cut your loops. And then I usually cut off about 1/4 of an inch off of the top, just because I usually cut the loops first and then cut them. You can also cut it off this way, but I usually get them really crooked that way. So I usually do the loops first. But then you can have, they're a little bit long if you don't trim them off a little bit. But I like the loopy flowers, so we're going to make the loopy flower today. So it depends on if you want this look to your flower, the little bushy flower, or if you want the loopy flower. So here's my loopy flower. All right. So we're going to make a loopy flower. Got that connected at the bottom. I'm going to take my tweezers, and we're going to start out the same way as we did with the other flowers. I'm just going to put my tweezer in there. I'm going to turn a couple of turns so that my tweezers are completely covered so I won't get any glue on my tweezers. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a dab of glue. And here I do use a little bit more because these are a little thick. You know, we got 2 layers of felt in there. Take a couple more rounds, and then I'm going to put another little dab of glue in here. Just helps it all hold together. And then we're getting towards the end here, and then I'm going to put some glue right on the end, and you do need to be a little careful here that you don't burn yourself because you really kind of want that end really glued together. So I'm going to turn this over, and just be careful not to burn yourself. And I'm going to take this off my tweezer and give it a little squeeze there. Now I noticed that this little corner is wanting to pop up, so I'm just going to stick a little more glue in that little corner. And this will be basically hidden down in your little arrangement, so you won't really see it if you've got a little bit of a mess there. So it'll be fine. And I'm just going to squeeze it. I'm trying to keep my bottom nice and flat. And whoops, here. Now I got everything on the floor. My goodness. I spent a lot of time dropping things. I don't know why. Okay, so here's our little flower. I'm just going to take some of the glue off of there. And then we can arrange it once we get it all glued together on our sentiment. Then we can rearrange it. There's our little flower. There's the loopy flower. These are really fun to make. This is one of my favorite flowers. Okay, So we got our 3 flowers done, and now we need to do our leaf. Now the leaf, you could just leave it flat if you wanted to like this, but what I usually do is take just a little bit of glue and make a little spine right here in the middle, and then squeeze it together, like fold it in half. And this is where you want to be careful, because all of a sudden that's where I notice that the glue is hot, is when I'm squeezing this. So I like to squeeze this together in the center so that it gives it a little dimension for the leaf, like that. So just squeeze it there until it hardens up so that it stays. But then there's your little leaf, and it gives it dimension then. All right, so there's our leaf. Okay, so now we're going to put this on our little sentiment printout here. And when I did this, I tried to design it so that it would fit nicely in the corner here. So what we're going to do, let me put the camera a little lower so you can see it. It's always hard to know exactly where to have the camera. And I'm just going to lay these out, and I know that they're going to fit in here, but each one of the flowers, you'll notice that your flowers will vary somewhat in size because of the felt you're using, of course. So I'm going to kind of lay this out. I think it'll go like that pretty well. And then we're going to put the leaf up in here, okay? And we'll do that at the end. So I'm going to put those here, and I think I'll put this one in the back like that, okay? So I'll go ahead and take this one off, and let's glue these 2 down first. Hopefully I can get them in the same place I had them. So I'm just going to put glue on the bottom, put it down where I want it. Don't cover up any of your letters if you can help it. Hold it down, and then I'm going to put this one on. Looks pretty good. Looks like I got hot glue there. There we go. And then I'm going to take this one, and so when we glue this one down to the paper, it's going to be nice because it's going to hold that all together too. Okay. And then let's see, I'm going to stick the little place where I joined it kind of inside here so that you don't see it. So I'm just going to kind of put that where I want it, and then I'll stick my finger down in the middle of it so that I can get it adhered well to the paper. Like that. So it makes that corner look very cute with our little flowers. Okay, and then I'm going to put my leaf up here. So sometimes when I do my leaf, I just put glue on the little spine here, but sometimes I have to fold it. Like this one's a little low, so I think I'm going to have to fold it over and put a little glue like this. It'll still be dimensional, but I think I'm going to have to fold that little spine over and make it flatter because I don't think it's going to fit in there otherwise. So we'll do that. Just be careful not to burn yourself. And then I'm going to put a little glue on here. And we'll just put it in there, so don't cover up in your letters. See if I can grip. Didn't quite get it where I wanted it before I decided to stick down. There we go. Like that. Then you can kind of put your little flowers over the top, and it just looks like it's growing right out of there. All right. So there is our little flower arrangement, and then you can play with your little loops. Okay. Now the other thing I like to do is I like to put some little embellishments in here. And I thought we might put some pretty embellishments in this. And I've got some little rhinestones. So let's see. I think I'm going to put some little gold rhinestones in there. I thought those would make pretty centers for my flowers. Okay, so I'm just going to, these are just inexpensive little rhinestones that I probably picked up someplace like Walmart or someplace. And these look really nice. They just give a little bit of sparkle to our flowers. So we'll put a little decoration in there. I'm just going to take a little hot glue and put it in the center of my flower here. And put that in. Just be careful, don't burn yourself. So I'll put that into the hot glue. There we go. Put one on here. Let's give it a little bit of extra bling. So these are just, and you don't have to do this, but I like little rhinestones and stuff, so I often put those on my creation, something to give it a little bling bling. All right, so there's that. All right, so we're ready to do the base. So you're going to have to give me just a moment. I have to get something else out to show you how to do the base here. and then we will do our table tent. Okay, so we are going to make this table tent more traditionally. I can score and make folds on cardstock on the Scan Cut. However, when I use thicker cardstocks, like this is like, I think this might be 110 pounds, so it's pretty thick cardstock. When I use that on the Scan and Cut, what it does to score, it actually cuts little dash lines into the paper. And often then when I use a thicker cardstock and I fold it, it actually breaks open. And so I'm going to show you how to do this a more traditional way with a scoring board, because that way it doesn't break open when you are folding your cardstock. Okay, so this is a craft or kind of a brown cardstock to make it look sort of like a wood little tabletop display. And what I have done, and this is an 8.5 inch piece of paper, and what I did is I just cut it in half the long ways. So this is 4 1/4 by 11. Okay, and so then I'll have 2 stands out of this piece of paper. And then I need another piece of paper to make the little base. So that's what we're going to do with this little base thing here. I cut that, so 4 1/4, it's the same width as this, but then I made it 4 inches tall. Okay, and we're going to use that in the base. So I've got my 2 little pieces of paper here to make my stand out of. So this one's 4 1/4 by 11. So basically cut your 8.5 by 11 piece of paper in half the long way. And then this one is the same width, so it's 4 1/4, but it's only 4 inches high. All right. Okay. So to use a scoring board, this is a scoring board that I have, and it also cuts because it has the little thing over here. You can see the little blade there. I like this because it also folds up. It's easy for travel, but it has like little lines in it, and it comes with a little scoring tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this one. I want to score this one in half. So 1/2 of 11 is going to be 5 1/2. So I'm going to find my 5 1/2 here, and I'm just going to score it down the little line that's on 5 1/2. So there's my cardstock scored, and then I'm going to fold it in half. So this basically is the size of an A2 card, so a basic card that you might make, and this is a top fold, like this. Okay? So this is what our little table tent's going to be made out of. So we got that one done. And then this piece, so I need to find there's my 4 1/4 way. So I'm going to turn this around to the 4 inch side because that's the side we need to work with. And I'm going to score it in half. So I'm going to go to the number 2 line and I'm going to score it so that I can fold it in half. And then I'm going to go in 3/4 of an inch from each side. So I have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 from this side. Okay, and then 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 on this side. So you probably can't see me very well over here, so I'm just going to score on that. So there's little lines on each one of these, so it makes it very easy. So I've got my 3 scored lines there. I'm going to go ahead and fold this in half. So there's my tent, and then we're going to fold these 2 lines up like this. Okay, so those are going to be folded up, and we're going to put some glue on these little tabs, and that's what's going to hold our little tent open so that it stands nicely on our table or on our shelf where we're going to put it. Okay, so if you give me just a moment, I'm going to get rid of this off my table so that we can do the final gluing of our little table tent. Okay, so we have our little pieces here, and normally when I put my fronts of my cards or my little table tent here onto this piece, and these are going to be the same size because we cut this 1/4 of, there was 4 of these on the page that I gave you for the printable, so this fits across the whole little table tent. Okay, normally I put my glue on this part, but I'm going to put it on this part this time because of all the flowers. So, and what I'm going to use actually is a tape runner. So these are a permanent tape runner, And these work really great because then it's very neat and clean. And ooh, I might be out. Nope, I'm not quite out. I'm getting close on this one though. So I'm just going to put a strip of glue all the way around on each side. I'm a little bit, I need to be a little closer to that side. And then I'm going to put one down the center here. Okay? Make sure that you've got it right side up again. And then I'm going to stand up here. And I'm going to line this up with the top of my card or my little table tent. Okay? Get it all lined up so that it's straight. And then drop it down. And the edges should line up pretty well, and I'm just going to press it down so it's stuck well on there. Okay. Make sure you get under your flowers. All right. So there's, oh, I got glue on my fingers. There we go. All right. So there is the beginning of our table tent. Then I'm going to, second here, I'm going to sit back down again. I'm going to turn this over, and it's easier for me to work from this side. So this part where we folded it in the center is going to go inside the card, and we're going to put glue on here, and I'm going to put tape runner, and we're going to put it right in here along the bottom. So I'm going to put a couple of strips of tape runner on here. On here. Okay. And then, again, the center fold's going to go in, so I'm going to lay this open like this, and I'm going to turn it over, and there's my little 3/4 inch piece, and I'm going to lay that right along the bottom of my table tent. So I'm going to get it lined up like that and press it down. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to flip this over like this. We're going to bring it down, and then we're going to put our tape on this little flap. And you could use wet glue on this too. I just like tape runner because it's very neat. And then I'm going to line this up down here on the bottom of my little tent, my little table tent, like that. And see, I've got a little bit of the cardstock must have been a little bit longer. So if that's the case, I can just take my scissors and gently cut along the end, even it up a little bit. And I have to do that every now and then. Let's do that. That looks better. Okay. All right, so now there's our little table tent in there. So it's going to be, the little fold's going to be going up. Make sure I got it all stuck down really well. All right. There is our little decorative design to put on our table or on our shelf in our sewing room. And any day truly is spent sewing is a good day, and that is the truth. I like to sit and sew and play with my scan and cut. So today we had a little scan and cut fun, and any day spent sewing is a good day. So please remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Sew Along with Jan. Come join us on Facebook on Sew Along with Jan. Like the video, that helps me on YouTube. And all of the materials that you need for this, all of the designs that you need for this, and some other videos will be linked below the description, in the description below this video. And thank you so much for joining me for Any Day Spent Sewing is a Good Day.